Hello, team players. Today I'm continuing my Monster Core Dragon series with the Conspirator Dragon. Let's dive in. So, of course, as usual, I'm going to look at the description first because that gives you a good idea of how to run these dragons as a GM. Hidden among the shadows and the upper echelons of society are the Conspirator Dragons. These dragons are schemers, always looking to manipulate or control others, either for personal gain or simply the thrill of watching their machinations play out. Conspirator dragons see themselves as above others and often speak with infantilizing tones and words. However, as the players will probably meet this type of dragon in disguise, it will do its best to maintain that disguise. And although Conspirator Dragons do keep hoards like other dragons, some of their hoard may include secrets and extortion documents, rather than just money like a lot of other dragons. Conspirator Dragon goals can be very varied, and they do keep items associated with those goals. For example, if a Conspirator Dragon wants to own a city, it'll keep deeds. Most of these dragons don't live in caves like other dragons, they live in settlement. As such, they keep their hoards in places like cellars, or even a bank vault if they're that lucky. Also, keep in mind that these are occult dragons, meaning they're the most likely to directly interact with others. They're also likely to use their wings as more than just transportation, instead using them as supplementary appendages, allowing their forelimbs to do other things. Occult dragons are also the most likely to have strange patterns on their scales, ones that are rarely seen in the natural world. GMs, if you want to surprise your players with a dragon fight, this is the dragon you want to use. Now it's time to go over stats of this monster. First, let's talk about skills. As a GM, you're going to want to be using this dragon's skills a lot, especially when it's in disguise. Particularly its charisma-based skills, which are deception, diplomacy, intimidation, and performance. Depending on the dragon's disguise, you may or may not use performance as much. But another skill that's very important for this dragon is stealth. After all, it needs to be able to take out whoever it wants to pose as without detection. There's an in-combat reason for it to be good at stealth as well, but I'll get into that a bit later. Speaking of combat, you will want to use his acrobatics and athletics when you're using this in combat, GM. As although this dragon doesn't have the grab and knockdown abilities like the adamantine dragon does, it does have good strength, so athletics is important. In addition, acrobatics is always going to be important for a dragon because it might need to maneuver in flight. Okay, in stark contrast to the adamantine dragon, the Conspirator Dragon's lowest save is actually fortitude, which is very uncommon in this system. However, it is incredibly good at will saves, plus gets a +2 bonus on all saves against occult effect. Bards and other occult casters will have a very hard time with this monster. Also, a Conspirator Dragon is immune to the controlled, paralyzed, and sleep condition. This dragon also has one reaction, the retract body reaction. If a Conspirator Dragon is hit or critically hit by an attack by a creature that the Conspirator Dragon can see, it can use a reaction to retract the targeted body part. This grants the dragon a +2 bonus on its armor class against the triggering attack. And this is retroactive, so it can turn a hit into a miss or a critical hit into a regular hit. And this dragon has the same standard melee attacks as the adamantine dragon, except that other than reach, these do not have any special abilities. For its ranged attack, however, it does not throw rocks at you. Instead, it has a mental blast attack with a range of 100 feet. This does do mental damage, which is non-lethal damage, but this attack is perfect for taking out enemies stealthily, meaning this dragon can be a threat even if it doesn't take its full dragon form, especially if you have a hard time finding it. Normally, in order for a dragon to cast spells, you have to use the dragon spellcaster rule, which essentially just means you get rid of the draconic frenzy and draconic momentum abilities and add spells. What spells depend on the type of dragon we're talking about. I'm not going to go over the ones for the Conspirator Dragon in this video, but I will put them on screen, and I'll also have a pinned comment about that for those of you that are vision impaired. But the Conspirator Dragon actually does have spells, even if you don't use the Spellcaster Dragon rule. Some examples of spells that the Conspirator Dragons always gets include Charm, Rewrite Memory, Mind Probe, and Mind Reading. All perfect spells for its use in order to keep up its disguise. But where a Conspirator Dragon can really fool the party is with the Conjure Disguise ability. The dragon can spend 1 minute to conjure a flesh suit of any humanoid it's seen of its size or smaller. The dragon is off guard while it does this. If the dragon stops or is interrupted during this process, the suit is destroyed. Once it has the disguise, it compresses itself into it and can remain in that form indefinitely. This transformation has the effects of change shape, but is not actively magical, and therefore doesn't detect as magic with detect magic and similar effects. The dragon loses its detract body reaction while transformed. If the dragon is critically hit while it's in disguise, the suit is destroyed and immediately explodes. This has the effects of detonate disguise, which I'll get to in a second, but each creature affected by the explosion uses 1 degree of success better on their saving throw than they actually roll. With detonate disguise, the dragon can choose to spend 2 actions to erupt from its disguise, destroying it. Doing so deals bludgeoning damage to all creatures within 5 feet of the dragon with a basic reflex save. A creature that fails this save is also dazzled for 1 round, as it becomes covered in scraps of the disguise. Any creature that is sharing the space of the dragon when it erupts is pushed to the nearest empty space. This effectively means that if the dragon decides to reveal itself, it's doing a bunch of damage right off the bat. As the young version of this dragon does 9d6 bludgeoning damage when it does this. That's just the young version of this dragon. And of course, this dragon does have the Draconic Momentum and Draconic Frenzy abilities, which I covered in my Adamantine Dragon video right here. We got 3 more abilities for this dragon to talk about. The first is Rush Transformation. This dragon can spend 3 actions to quickly reshape its body into that of a humanoid creature. This has the effects of humanoid form, except it doesn't gain the +4 bonus to deception checks, as this transformation allows the dragon to crudely use its body to mimic a human form. The dragon can dismiss the effect at any time. When this effect ends, the dragon leaves behind scraps of magically conjured flesh, which could give away the dragon's presence. This form also only lasts for 1 minute. This dragon also has a breath weapon, obviously. This is a 40 to 60 foot cone, depending on the age of the dragon, of poison. Also, for 1 minute, this breath also has the effects of a mist spell, except it only fills the cone's area. It basically blasts smoke at you. And of course, like all breath weapons, it does have a cooldown of 1d4 rounds. And finally, remember when I said that stealth was important for its combat as well? Well, that's because this dragon gets sneak attack. 2d6 precision damage for the young and adult, and 3d6 for the ancient. This is also why athletics is pretty important to its combat, as this dragon grappling or tripping party members means it gets a sneak attack. So, for players, how can you beat this monster? Well, unfortunately, if your GM is good, it's going to be very difficult to even determine that a dragon is in the area, as this dragon is very good at what it does, especially if it's the adult or ancient version. This is where a class like Investigator would help a lot. Unfortunately, in most parties, you're just gonna have to deal with the surprise, oh, it's a dragon. But once this dragon reveals itself, it does have some weaknesses. Grappling this dragon is an excellent choice. It's got a low fortitude DC. And there are a ton of really good spells that require fortitude save. And a monster whose lowest save is fortitude is pretty rare. So if you do run into this type of dragon, I would definitely be using those fortitude save spells. Unfortunately, this dragon has such a high will save that it's going to be almost impossible to frighten this dragon. You would need something like the Bar's Dirge of Doom, which doesn't give the dragon a saving throw. However, if you have sickening options, this is a good chance to use them as well, as most of them require fortitude saving throws. Unfortunately, Phantom Pain does require a will save, so you're probably not going to get very much out of that against this dragon. Unfortunately, you're probably just going to have to deal with its smoke breath, because that is a huge area even for the young dragon. A 40-foot cone is ridiculous. Also, this dragon may try to use the mist that its breath creates to escape. So if you've got party members that can see through concealment or smoke, it's going to be up to them to make sure it doesn't escape. Overall, this type of dragon can be very tricky to deal with. As before combat, you gotta figure out that there's even a dragon in the area, and then you gotta figure out who it's disguised itself as. And even after all that, it can still escape using its breath weapon. Overall, this dragon is a perfect monster for intrigue campaigns. These dragons also make great mob bosses. I would really appreciate if you guys would do all the YouTube stuff. Comment, like, subscribe, and become a member if you want my videos early. You can also get my videos early if you pledge on my Patreon at Team Leader or higher, just like these people here. But if you're more interested in a Cleric Domain video, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.